Hi there, Stampers. This is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I go live here on Facebook and YouTube every Monday and Thursday at 2:30 to show you guys usually some sort of a fun fold card. Today we are working on a triple diamond trifold card. That's this one right here. This is one of the patterns out of book one of my two volumes set of tutorial books. These are for sale on my website. You can buy them in the e-version, or you can get them printed with spiral bounding and the whole thing. So today's card, we're going to be using the Snowy Wonder bundle. And we're actually just using the stamp set, but I always suggest the bundle because you save 10% when you buy those out of our catalog. And speaking of saving money, we have a sale coming up starting on Wednesday. You're going to be able to save some pretty good discounts out of ink and cardstock and papers and bundles, a whole bunch of stuff out of our annual catalog. So make sure you are signed up for my newsletter so you get more information on that, because that's what I'm working on this afternoon, is updating everybody on this upcoming sale. But for today, we're going to work on this fun fold card. Let's get started. Okay, so here it is, and it's called obviously the triple diamond because there are three of them, and it's a trifold because it folds in threes. We're going to be using the Snowy Wonder stamp set and the Snowy Scenes designer series paper. I love that our designer series paper coordinates so well with our stamp sets, and the dies actually coordinate with it as well. You can notice that this snowman right here is so similar to this one here, and both of them cut out with the same die from the die set. The same with the penguin. He's going to cut out with the die as well. And the tree, and there were several little things. It's just awesome. The house, the tree, the snowflake. It's awesome the way it cuts out the stamped image and the designer series paper. So if you feel like coloring, great. If you don't, we got you covered there too. And of course, the color coordination exists too, in that I'm using garden green cardstock because that's one of the colors in the designer series paper, and then I'm using Pool Party ink because that's another color in there. So our card base is 11 inches by 5.5, and I scored it at 1.5, 4 1/8, and 6 3/4. So it started off with a valley, a mountain, and a valley, and so that's going to fold like that. Then I have two strips of designer series paper that are going to go front and back of this first panel, and they're 1 1/4 by 5 1/4. Because this was 1.5 by 5.5, we're reducing both sides by 1/4. So 1 1/4 by 5 1/4, and I have two, one for either side. And then this one right here is going to be 2 3/8 by 5 1/4. And I have one that's designer series paper, and I have one that is standard basic white cardstock. So that will go in here. That's where we can sign and put our sentiment. And then for the back, I have 4 inches by 5 1/4. And so those are all going to go together. And then I have 3 little diamonds of garden green cardstock. So whatever cardstock you're using. And this is 1 3/8 by 1 3/8. Oh no, 1 5/8. This is 1 3/8. So this is again 1/4 inch smaller. So 1 3/8 by 1 3/8, and then 1 5/8 by 1 5/8. And there are 3. So let's go ahead and get started by putting on our designer series paper. How was everyone's weekend? Did you all do anything fun? I had my craft fair this weekend. I was there Friday 10 to 7, Saturday 10 to 7, and then Sunday 10 to 4. So it was a lot of standing in one spot. I mean, you don't realize how small a 10 by 10 area is until you're not allowed to walk out of it for 8 hours. But I had some really good conversations with some ladies that are hopefully going to come over and start joining in for my stamp classes. I sold quite a few finished cards. It was just pretty good overall, so I'm pretty happy with it. Talked to some other vendors. I think sometimes that's part of the fun in doing vendor fairs is you talk to other vendors and say, where else have you been and what have you done and what's been working for you? And just kind of get more localized information, which is always helpful. So I'm going to put on all the designer series paper, but I'm going to leave off my basic white cardstock because I want to stamp that first. You know, we always love to do our stamping before we adhere in case there's a boo-boo. We can flip it over and use the other side. I always say paper has two sides for a reason. Jan said she did a craft fair on Saturday and Sunday, or Friday and Saturday too. How did that go? Did you do well? I know a lot of us that do craft fairs are always like super excited that the moment that we get past where we've earned more than we spent on the booth fee. This one was pricey, so that was an exciting one. But it's the biggest one in the area and very well attended, so the price is worth it. And sometimes it's not just what I make at the craft fair, it's the number of customers that come back and visit me after the fact and attend my classes, all that good stuff. Oh, running across the top of the screen is our winner from Thursday's live. I kind of lost the ability to spin live, but the good part about my losing that ability to spin while we're live is that people who watch on replay are able to like and share and tell me they did that, and they get entered into the drawing. So Sherry was one of those who watched on a replay, and she won the live. So congratulations to Sherry Wilson. You want to go to queenbeecreations.net, and then up there in the address bar, add /prize patrol and claim your prize. That's where you claim it and give me the address on where you would like it mailed to. So let me get that out of the way. That text is usually distracting to me, so I figured maybe it is to you too. And I wanted to be able to see that ruler up at the top. A lot of you know I use the ruler on the bottom down here all the time. I'm always down in this corner measuring off how, tall and how wide things are. But did you know that up on the top, we have our 0 point and then it counts off in either direction? And that sometimes can be just as useful. Because what I want to do is I want to find the center of this edge. And so this is 5.5. And so if I kind of move back and forth, I'll see that if I put it at 2 3/4 on both sides, that's going to tell me my middle is right here. So I'm going to just make a little tick mark there. And I'm going to do the same with the little area, and I'll show you why in a little bit. But now that I've done that middle one, so I'm going to be watching the middle mark and the edge. And I want to find out, that's going to be my center. So I've got 1 3/8 going this way and 1 3/8 going that way. So I'm going to mark my little middle here. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. 1 3/8 and 1 3/8, and I'm going to make a tick mark with my pencil. Now you can't see that really well, but I can. And I'm using them as guides. So this little tick mark in the middle here, what I want to do is put some adhesive on half of my triangle. Remember, we don't want to do the whole thing. We only want to do half because it's going to hang over the edge. And then I'm kind of setting my point. That's where my mark is, right here. And then I'm going to slide over, and then I'm going to make my other 2 points line up on this edge. So I've got the 2 points here, and then hopefully my middle one, yeah, see, it landed right on the 0. So I know this one is perfectly centered in the middle there. Then I'm going to do the same kind of idea with the other 2. And that I'm going to look at my little tick mark here. And then I'm just going to slide over until my ends line up on the edge of the cardstock. And you'll notice there's kind of a 1/4 inch gap here. So I'm expecting that the other one will have something very similar. So we'll add our adhesive, and then I'm going to find my little tick mark, and then I'm going to slide over and place that down. And so you'll see the same amount here is the same amount here. And that's how I have all 3 of them on. Okay, so now we have our base all ready to go. Oh, Jeanne did fabulous at her booth. That's awesome. Did you sell a lot of cards, or was it mostly 3D items? I know I usually sell more 3D items than cards, and this year it was more cards. So who knew? There's a few more craft fairs through the season, so I'll still have a chance to sell some, but I was kind of shocked. I mean, I like that they buy the cards. I mean, that's all great, but you never know what to make the most of, you know, like you want to have enough inventory, but you don't want to be left over with a whole bunch after the season's over. So that one's kind of hard to gauge. I know a lot of people who do craft fairs, even if they're not a Stampin' Up! Demo, just because they like to, you know, do them. And so if you are one who just attends, you know, that's good too. We love to see you there and show you our ideas. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to be using a Pool Party ink because I have Pool Party in the designer series paper. Let's see, I'm going to use the greeting, Season's Greetings on the inside. And then the great part about this stamp set is a lot of these stamps are pretty little. And so any number of these stamps can be used in the little squares. And, you know, don't think that it has to fit on there entirely, because even if you just wanted, you know, the snowman, you could put him on there. And even though you don't get the whole thing, you could stamp him and get the top half. It'd still be the same effect. You know, just because you're missing the bottom doesn't mean they won't catch on that it's a snowman. Same with the little penguin. I mean, he kind of fits. So you could squeeze them all in there, or you could give them a little more wiggle room and just set them down a little. But that's why I chose this stamp set, because there were any number of choices of stamps I could use. But because I'm on camera and, you know, we're timed and all that, I decided I was going to stick with the snowflakes so that I could just use the one color of ink. But don't let it limit you when you're doing yours. So I'm going to set this straight. And we all know I set my stamp down with the line underneath the word, and then set my block down, the line, the edge of my block on a line, so that was straight. Now I've put either point on the dark line here, so that that's going to be on point for me. And then I can just stamp in the middle. These won't matter because it's a snowflake, so I mean, they can be kind of cattywampus, but I want to kind of try to center it. So I'm trying to make sure it's even on the edges as best as I can. Hi, Louise. She says she's coming in late. That's all good. That's why we have replays. You can go back and watch it again and again. Okay, I'm going to come in with my larger snowflake and try to just do a few of them. And then I'm going to come in with a smaller snowflake. So this set has 3 different sizes of snowflakes, which is very helpful. Trying to be random, not think about it. And then I have the holly I was going to use in the corners. So I've got real red for the berries and garden green for our leaves. was looking for. I don't like those berries up in the corner. See what I was saying about how we wanted to be able to stamp on the other side if we didn't like it? My pool party once again. Let me get the ink pads out of the way before I stick my finger in them. You'll notice when I use my ink pads, I try to put them out in front of me and reach into them to ink. Over the years, I had put them off for here or down to the bottom, but I find I'm more likely to set my arm or my finger into them than if I set them up to the top. Just kind of a tip for how I don't mess myself up there. Good. Looks like Gianna did a good mix of things. That's always helpful. Okay, when I'm using my tape roller, you all know that what I do is I tend to flick it over a little bit to make it sure that it snaps off up here at the tip of the roller, so that when I get started again, it breaks off up here. Because that's where I want it to be sticky, because that's the first part that's going to touch the paper on my next roll. I want it to stick. So those of you who came on late, make sure you are on my newsletter, because we have a sale coming up, our seasonal sale. This is Stampin' Up's version of their Black Friday. It's coming up this week. On Wednesday, we will have our seasonal sale where you get like 20% off bundles, designer series paper, and cardstock, inks, all those good things. So I will have more details on that in my newsletter that should go out either this afternoon or tomorrow morning. So keep an eye out for that. Here is our finished card. Excuse me, this is the Triple Diamond Trifold card. So I hope you give it a try. And of course, everything I use is Stampin' Up related. So if you found yourself falling in love with this paper or this stamp set, I'd love to hook you up and earn a chance to be your Stampin' Up demonstrator. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope to see you back here on Thursday for another live. Thank you so much. See you then. Bye.